All right, welcome back to another episode of NFL News. I'm your host, Terry. So there's a little bit going on here and there about facilities opening up. Coaches are going back tomorrow. The world's kind of opening. NFL's kind of getting back. And, whether that's right or wrong, that's a different discussion. But that's kind of happening. But by far, the biggest news is Drew Brees' comments. And so I have my thoughts about this. First, I don't like this idea of, hey, you can't say that right now. That's silly. I mean, yes, you can take into consideration the context, the temperature, the climate, all that good stuff. But the idea that you shouldn't be able to say what you feel if you feel it is just silly to me. So that's number one. Number two, people need to really realize context matters. And this is a much bigger issue, as most things are. It's not just in a vacuum. Society right now has no type of attention span, no type of inclination for real journalism. Most people read titles and clickbait titles, and that's it. They don't even read the article. They don't care about sources. They don't care about what's actually true. And so oftentimes in interviews, we get these clippings, these quotes out of a larger story, and it's just like, oh my God, and they don't even look into it. So Drew Brees in this situation, very easily taken out of context, looks super tone deaf. But if you just look at, hey, I don't agree with anybody disrespecting the flag, it's like, whoa. But when you actually look at what was going on, because people are starting to push two things together. Drew Brees was asked specifically about protests for the anthem next season or the potential for it. And so his response was in the context of that. It wasn't in the context of current protests, in the context of, any of the movement happening right now. So let's get that started, because I heard so many people, so-called professionals, and I wasn't even going to say nothing, but when I hear these sports people and I'm reminded, like, these people are so irresponsible, it's ridiculous. This is why I created my own thing, because I hear so many of these so-called sports talking heads sit here and lean in talking about Brees not caring about what's happening with the protests or the riots, and him making this about him and him trying to steal away from the moment and all this. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Two things can happen at one time. And I'm going to say this until I die, because people don't understand it. He can be talking about his feelings of the anthem and also still be in support of the movement happening right now. Just because you're answering a question that is related in some semblance doesn't mean that's your opinion on everything. Also, he didn't bring it up. So a lot of people are like, it's not about the flag. Do you see what's happening right now? And do you see people marching? Like, they don't care about flag. This man died. Like, he wasn't talking about the death of George Floyd. I'm sorry, the murder of George Floyd. He was talking about specifically what he was asked. And in its full context, he said that he always stands with his teammates and he stands for the movement and everything, but he doesn't agree with anyone that disrespects the flag. So again, two things here. So people tried to force this together. If you look at the comments, I don't agree with anyone that disrespects the flag. They try to force that into a commentary on what's happening now. They forced that into Brees saying he doesn't agree with the protests. He doesn't agree with Black Lives Matter. He doesn't agree with racial inequality or agree that it's happening. He didn't say any of that. And so people are like, you're part of the problem. Okay, so number one, that's not true. Just because he talked about one thing doesn't mean he's talking about that. Number two, he literally in an interview said he stands and supports of the movements, but nobody reported that part. So that's separate. Let's move that out the way. Let's just talk about the anthem. Now, do I personally agree with that? No, I don't agree with that. But this is where he was coming from. He was coming from, and again, if you hear the comments, he talked about what the flag meant to him. And he talked about why it would be hard for him to accept somebody disrespected because of what it makes him feel. Now, again, the whole protest or boycott of the anthem is not about the flag. And really, in some ways, it kind of is. But it's not literally about the flag. It's to bring awareness to the injustice, the racial injustice and the inequality and the police brutality, obviously. And so some people that choose to focus on the method of protest and demonstration are the ones who are willingly or not willingly, but they ignore the actual cause. And so it's the same thing people are talking about looting. You're worried about the looting and less worried about what the actual problem is. And so either people sometimes are unknowingly ignorant, I should say, and some people are willingly ignorant. So some people do it as a means just to continue to debate and try to get away from the real conversation, using it as a red herring. And some people just don't get it. Some people have very emotional attachments to the flag, and that's all they see is someone disrespecting the flag, and it stops there. And again, I don't agree with that. Obviously, that's not what it's meant to be. And so it's taken so long for a lot of people to get over that and to really see what the conversation is about. And so, but again, I don't agree with it, but does that mean, what everyone has been saying about Drew Brees is true? No, obviously not. And then I was listening to Rob Parker. He really pissed me off sometimes. I love listening to Rob, but sometimes he just gets too silly. He's like, I don't want to hear about what he's done for New Orleans. Not today. I don't want to hear about what he's done for the community. Not today. What? What do you mean you don't want to hear about it? So you don't want to hear context? You want to take the context out of what's happening? And then we are the same people that in these arguments bring up the historical context of racial injustice and everything else. And if somebody's like, I don't want to hear about that right now. I don't want to hear about that today. I want to hear about what we're talking about right now. You can't just cut the context out. All the context matters. Drew Brees is somebody that has done the work. He's been recognized for the Walter Payton Award. But other than that, he's been doing the work without all the accolades as far as the cameras. I don't want to hear about people that pop up with a hashtag and people that pop up with pictures during these times. I want to hear about those people that have been doing it when no one's looking. Those are the people I care about. And there's so many players, and the Walter Payton Award brought this up, but there's so many players that just don't have a light on what they're doing. And maybe they don't want one, but there's so many players that actually do things every day when it's not cool to be doing it, when it's not advantageous to be doing it. And so to see what the things Brees has done over this time and to sit here and question him is silly. Also, on top of that, when he in the same interview said he stands with the movement, it's silly. And so for his teammates and everybody to come out like that, I thought it was ridiculous. Now, of course, he apologized because we're in cancel culture. That's all we're in. If you don't say what I think, then you have to go or you have to apologize. It's not even about the apology. Let's say Drew Brees was racist as hell. Let's just say Drew Brees was ultra racist and he came out and apologized today. You really think that just dissolved? It's not about the apology. It's not about actually what you feel. It's just about the power. Oh, I made you apologize. Oh, I'm making you do something. That's all it is. Everybody keeps talking about every single time somebody wants denounce racism, hashtag, how come you can't say, hey, Black Lives Matter? Does it matter that they say it or does it matter what people do? And I think what really upsets me about this is Drew Brees has been a doer for so long. And now it's one thing when people question a regular person and their motives. Oh, okay, they did the hashtag, but what have they done? That's what they always say. Now you got somebody that actually has been doing things in and out of hot times, hot political times, and you still question him. It's just crazy to me. And so, again, I don't agree with Brees' take on the flag. I don't have that emotional attachment. And that's the part of empathy that everybody lacks. Because it's super, what I find funny? It's super easy for people to be like, oh, it's not about the flag, blah, blah, blah. Which I agree, it's not. But the flag's not something I'm attached to. So it's hard for me to act like I know what it means to see somebody disrespect something that I have a serious emotional connection to, and then say that I would have the strength to look past it and understand. Hell, you got people that still eat Chick-fil-A. People like, oh, I support the LGBTQ and I love everybody. All my friends, I support your fight. But you don't leave Chick-fil-A. You keep eating there. I mean, that's a pretty simple ask. Like, okay, it's not about if the chicken is good. It's about the stance they have and how it disrespects me. And I know people, oh yeah, I support the community and still eat at Chick-fil-A. So you getting mad at people that have an attachment to the flag and you can't even get over the fact of Chick-fil-A. And again, it's just an example. I don't really care about Chick-fil-A, but it's an example because, the only thing I could think of to even be close to that is football itself. And this isn't really a boycott or anything, but when I hear parents, when I hear, physicians in the medical field attack football, and not even just the injury part. There's people that talk about the toxicness and the violence of teaching kids violent, blah, blah, blah. And so when I hear people attack football like that, that's the most I could think of, where I'm like, it's almost like I can't hear what your side is because you're attacking something I love. And the empathetic thing to do is to push past that, be in their shoes, understand that it comes from not a place of hatred towards you or a hatred of the thing you love. It comes from a place of love for whatever they're trying to protect. And so it's hard to do that. It's been hard to do that, especially when it all started. And over the years, it takes work to understand why people boycott football, but that makes me a better advocate for football. That makes me even better at understanding how to deliver the message and how to change things that are concerns for people or explain things that might be myths. And so you would hope anybody like a Brees that's in a family with war veterans or whatever the attachment to America and the flag, you would hope that one day they could get to that point where they push past that and understand the conversation at hand. So then they can, because if you love America so much and you love what it stands for, then you should want to push the narrative to make it better for everybody that lives here, in my opinion. So again, though, I don't think the backlash on Brees and all this cancel stuff is necessary, but you already know my feelings on cancel culture. If you listen to it, it's absolutely ridiculous. It's toxic. It doesn't help anything. And so, even people like teammates and everybody, oh, my man's apologized like he's a real leader. So again, if he was super racist, then what does it matter that he apologized? It's just people want people to perform and do stuff. They just want people to dance for them. And I hate it. And again, if you take umbrage with what he said as far as the protest of the anthem during the season, that's one thing. But if you start linking it to he don't care about what's going on right now and he don't care about George Floyd and he's this and this and he's tone deaf, that's silly. The interviewer asked him that. That was the question within the context of the full interview. Now, if he would have said, I'm not going to comment on that right now, they would have just reported that. Maybe it wouldn't been as big of a backlash, but I guarantee you it would have been one. It would have been like, okay, Brees, you need to speak up. You need to say it. How come you can't denounce racism? That's exactly what they would have said. So he said what was on his heart. And again, whether I agree with it or disagree with it, I don't really ever hold that against somebody from saying what's on their heart. And if it's something that I just can't support and that completely, turns me away, then that's, at least I know now. So I'm always for the honesty. But anyway, that's it for me. Go to the comment section. Let me know what you think. Share around, get the conversation started, and thank you for listening.